Namaste and welcome back to our channel, dear viewers. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of India's ancient universities, specifically Nalanda University. We are going to discuss how Nalanda University shaped the religion and culture of other South and East Asian countries. We will also learn how India was once an epitome of knowledge, and how unfortunately all of it was destroyed. We will also see in video how Indian monarchs and its people established and maintained world-class universities, thousands or at least hundreds of years before the European monarchs did, after the Industrial Revolution of Europe. Before the age of the Internet and modern universities, ancient India was a hub of intellectual pursuits. It's incredible to think that thousands of years ago, India was home to some of the world's first universities. Nalanda University, established in the 5th century CE, is perhaps the most renowned. It attracted scholars from across the world to study subjects like astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and more. Nalanda was a renowned Mahavihara, or Buddhist monastic university in ancient Magadha, modern-day Bihar, India. Considered by historians to be the world's first residential university and among the greatest centers of learning in the ancient world, it was located near the city of Rajagriha, now Rajgir, and about 90 kilometers southeast of Pataliputra, now Patna. Operating from 427 CE to until 1197 CE. While its excavated ruins today only occupy an area of around 488 by 244 meters, or 1,600 by 800 feet, or roughly 12 hectares, Nalanda Mahavihara occupied a far greater area in medieval times. The subjects taught at Nalanda covered every field of learning, and it attracted pupils and scholars from Korea, Japan, China, Tibet, Indonesia, Persia and Turkey. Nalanda was established during the Gupta Empire era, and was supported by numerous Indian patrons. Nalanda University taught 6 major Buddhist schools and philosophies as well as subjects such as Vedas, grammar, medicine, logic and mathematics. The university was also a major source of the 657 Sanskrit texts carried by pilgrim Xuanzang and the 400 Sanskrit texts carried by Yijing to China in the 7th century, which influenced East Asian Buddhism. Nalanda's datable history begins in the 5th century. A seal discovered at the site identifies a monarch named Shukraditya as its founder. This is corroborated by the Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang travelogue. In the Indian tradition and texts, kings were called by many epithets and names. Scholars such as Andrea Pinckney and Hartmut Scarf conclude that Shukraditya is same as Kumaragupta I. He was one of the kings of the Gupta dynasty. Further, numismatic evidence discovered at Nalanda corroborate that Kumaragupta I was the founder patron of the Nalanda Monastery University. His successors, Buddhagupta, Tathagatagupta, Baladitya, and Vajra, later extended and expanded the institution by building additional monasteries and temples. Nalanda, thus flourished through the 5th and 6th centuries under the Guptas. These Gupta-era contributions to Nalanda are corroborated by the numerous Buddhist and Hindu seals, artwork, iconography and inscriptions discovered at Nalanda, which are in the Gupta style and Gupta-era scripts. During this period, the Gupta kings were not the only patrons of Nalanda. They reflect a broad and religiously diverse community of supporters. It is remarkable, states Hartmut Scarf, that many donors were not Buddhists. The emblems on their seals show Hindu deities like Lakshmi, Ganesha, Shivalinga and Durga. After the decline of the Guptas, the most notable patron of the Nalanda University was Harsha. He was known as Siladitya in some Buddhist records. He was a 7th century emperor with a capital at Kannauj. According to Xuanzang, Harsha built majestic Buddhist viharas, as well as 3 temples, Buddha, Surya, and Shiva temple. He states that, a long succession of kings had built up Nalanda till the whole is truly marvelous to behold. In accordance with the ancient Indian traditions of supporting temples and monasteries, inscriptions found at Nalanda suggest that it received gifts, including grants of villages by kings to support its work. King Harsha himself granted 100 villages and directed 200 households from each of these villages to supply the institution's students and monks with requisite daily supplies such as of rice, butter, and milk. This supported over 1,500 faculty and 10,000 student monks at Nalanda. These numbers, however, may be exaggerated. They are inconsistent with the much lower number of over 3,000 given by Yijing, another Chinese pilgrim who visited Nalanda a few decades after Xuanzang. According to scholar Asher, while the excavated Nalanda site is large and the number of viharas so far found are impressive, they simply cannot support 10,000 or more student monks. The total number of known rooms and their small size is such that either the number of monks must have been far less than Xuanzang's claims or the Nalanda site was many times larger than numerous excavations have so far discovered. It is evident from the large numbers of texts that Yijing carried back with him after his 10-year residence at Nalanda, that the university must have featured a well-equipped library. Traditional Tibetan sources mention the existence of a great library at Nalanda named Dharmaganja, which comprised 3 large multi-storied buildings, the Ratnasagara, meaning ocean of jewels, the Ratnadati, meaning sea of jewels, and the Ratnaranjika, meaning jewel-adorned. Ratnadati was 9 stories high. The exact number of volumes in the Nalanda library is not known, but it is estimated to have been in the hundreds of thousands. When a Buddhist scholar at Nalanda died, his manuscripts were added to the library collection. The library not only collected religious manuscripts but also had texts on such subjects as grammar, logic, literature, astrology, astronomy, and medicine. The Nalanda library must have had a classification scheme which was possibly based on a text classification scheme developed by the Sanskrit linguist, Panini. In his biography of Xuanzang, Wiley states that all the students of Nalanda studied the Great Vehicle, or Mahayana, as well as the works of the 18 Nikaya traditions of Buddhism. In addition to these, they studied other subjects such as the Vedas, Hetavidya, or logic, Shabdavidya, or grammar and philology, Chikitsavidya, or medicine, the works on magic, the Atharvaveda, and Samkhya. According to Fraser, the Vedic studies included Vedic texts and ritual, but also the different theoretical disciplines associated with the limbs, or the sciences of the Vedas, which included disciplines such as linguistics, law, astronomy, and reasoning. Other subjects believed to have been taught at Nalanda include law, astronomy, and city planning. Xuanzang traveled around India between 630 and 643 CE, visiting Nalanda in 637 and 642, spending a total of around 2 years at the university. He received the Indian name of Mokshadeva and studied under the guidance of Shilabhadra, the venerable head of the institution at the time. Besides Buddhist studies, the monk also attended courses in grammar, logic, and Sanskrit, and later also lectured at the university. In the detailed account of his stay at Nalanda, the pilgrim describes the view out of the window of his quarters thus. Moreover, the whole establishment is surrounded by a brick wall, which encloses the entire convent from without. One gate opens into the great college, from which are separated 8 other halls standing in the middle. The richly adorned towers, and the fairy-like turrets, like pointed hill tops, are congregated together. The observatories seem to be lost in the fog of the morning, and the upper rooms tower above the clouds. In the 30 years following Xuanzang's return, no fewer than 11 travelers from China, Tibet and Korea are known to have visited Nalanda, including the monk Yijing. He arrived in 673 CE, and stayed in India for 14 years, 10 of which he spent at the Nalanda University. In his chronicle, Yijing notes that revenues from 200 villages, as opposed to 100 in Xuanzang's time, had been assigned toward the maintenance of Nalanda. In the mid-7th century, the Silla monk Hyenjo visited and stayed for 3 years at Nalanda. He sent his students Hai Ryan and Hyen Gak to Nalanda for studies as well. They adopted Indian names to interact with the fellow students. For example, Hai Ryan was known as Prajnavarman, and it is this name that is found in the records. According to Korean records, monks visited India through the 9th century, despite arduous travel challenges to study at various monasteries, but Nalanda University was the most revered. In and after the 7th century, Tibetan monks such as Thani Sambhota came to Nalanda to study, not only Buddhism, but Sanskrit language, grammar and other subjects. Sambhota is credited with applying the principles of Sanskrit and its grammar to remodel Tibetan language and its script. It was after Sambhota's first return from Nalanda that the Tibetan king adopted Buddhism and committed to making it the religion of his people. Archaeological excavations in the site during 1920 and 1921 discovered a thick layer of ashes on the uppermost strata, across many buildings separated by some distance. This suggests that Nalanda was subject to a catastrophic fire. The troops of Muhammad Bakhtiyar Khalji, who had plundered the region in 1200 CE, the Nalanda University, were also raided by them. The Tibetan records are the second source of the events at Nalanda in the late 12th century and much of the 13th century. These were the decades of widespread systematic destruction of monasteries and learning centers in this region, and historical records in Tibet affirm that monks from Nalanda and nearby monasteries such as the Vikramashala Monastery who survived the slaughter, fled to Tibet. Johann Elverskog, a scholar of religious studies and history, states that it is incorrect to say Nalanda's end was sudden and complete by about 1202, because it continued to have some students well into the 13th century. Elverskog, relying on Arthur Waley's 1932 paper, states that this is confirmed by the fact a monk ordained in 13th century Nalanda traveled to the court of Kublai Khan, a Mongol emperor. Although, after years of destruction and persecution, Nalanda University was forgotten and it faded from memory of all Indian people. After its decline, Nalanda was largely forgotten until Francis Buchanan Hamilton surveyed the site in 1811 and 1812 after locals in the vicinity drew his attention to some Buddhist and Brahmanical images and ruins in the area. He, however, did not associate the mounds of earth and debris with famed Nalanda. That link was established by Major Markham Kiddo in 1847. Alexander Cunningham and the newly formed Archaeological Survey of India conducted an official survey in 1861 and 1862. Systematic excavation of the ruins by the ASI did not begin until 1915 and ended in 1937. Post-independence, the second round of excavation and restoration took place between 1974 and 1982. In 1951, the Nava Nalanda Mahavihara, a modern center for Pauline Buddhism in the spirit of the ancient institution, was founded by the government of Bihar near Nalanda's ruins at the suggestion of Rajendra Prasad, India's first president. It was deemed to be a university in 2006. September 1, 2014 saw the commencement of the first academic year of a modern Nalanda University, with 15 students, in nearby. Nalanda University, also known as Nalanda International University, is an international and research-intensive university located in the historical city of Rajgir in Bihar, India. It was established by an Act of Parliament to emulate the famous ancient University of Nalanda. The idea to resurrect Nalanda University was endorsed in 2007 at the East Asia Summit, represented mostly by Asian countries including China, Singapore, Japan, Malaysia and Vietnam, apart from Australia and New Zealand, and as such, the university is seen as one of the flagship projects of the Government of India. It has been designated as an institution of national importance by the Parliament. After the Islamic conquest, the destruction and the demise of Nalanda, other monasteries and Buddhist culture from the plains of Bihar and Bengal, the brand memory of Nalanda remained the most revered in Tibet, Vietnam, China, Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and Japan. A vast amount of what came to comprise Tibetan Buddhism, both its Mahayana and Vajrayana traditions, stems from the teachers and traditions at Nalanda. Shantarakshita, who pioneered the propagation of Buddhism in Tibet in the 8th century, was a scholar of Nalanda. Other forms of Buddhism, such as the Mahayana Buddhism followed in Vietnam, China, Korea and Japan, flourished within the walls of this ancient university. Several Buddhist institutions overseas have chosen to call themselves Nalanda to acknowledge Nalanda's influence. These include Nalanda Buddhist Society in Malaysia, and Nalanda College, Colombo, Sri Lanka, Nalanda Buddhist Education Foundation, Indonesia, Nalanda Buddhist Institute, Bhutan. Tibetan Buddhist tradition is regarded to be a continuation of the Nalanda tradition. The Dalai Lama himself states, Tibetan Buddhism is not an invention of the Tibetans. Rather, it is quite clear that it derives from the pure lineage of the tradition of the Nalanda monastery. The master Nagarjuna hailed from this institution, as did many other important philosophers and logicians. The Dalai Lama refers to himself as a follower of the lineage of the 17 Nalanda masters. And there you have it, a glimpse into the world's first residential university, the beacons of learning that illuminated the path of knowledge in ancient times. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our enlightening explorations. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring. Namaste.